Never Leave Me is a story about Syrian refugee kids, orphans of Syrian war, who live on the border, southeast Turkish border that is very close to Syria. Basically, Beşir organization, which is one non-governmental organization, invited me to do something for orphans in Turkey. And we decided to start with the workshops, theater and film workshops with the kids living in border cities. And that is how we came up with the idea to make a film story and to make a film out of that experience. The movie is based on the real lives of real kids, and the main characters and actors of the movie are real orphans of Syrian war. Well, basically, I can consider this movie as kind of trilogy because both Snow and Children of Sarajevo are treating innocent victims of war, let's say. In those first two cases, it's about Bosnian war, but I was dealing with orphans and also women who survived our war. And this was my first, let's say, like escape from Bosnia to some other war and some other territory. But since it's about orphans, I think it's part of one, let's say, trilogy that thematized a similar topic. It was, of course, different from other experiences because I was directing people whose language I don't speak, about whose culture I don't know so much. But since I personally believe and I know that all people are the same, I mean, we all suffer the same way, we love the same way, it wasn't difficult in that sense. After I have met those kids and after I became very close to them, I didn't even notice the fact that we don't speak same language because we start to love each other, and that's beyond the language. I was 16 years old when the war started in Bosnia and when Sarajevo became besieged city. And of course that I had to grow up overnight. You know, I was a kid, I was a teenager, I was going to high school, but then, you know, overnight I had to deal with fear and hunger and cold and everything. And of course, it marked my approach and my personality and everything as an artist. I think I will always be sensitive to other people's suffering and to the war or post-war consequences of wars, subjects that are dealing with these kind of things. Because I think that was so intensive experience, and I learned about life, about art. Basically, I discovered art in that at that time. So, of course, yeah, it changed me a lot. Also, in this last project, Never Leave Me, it helped me, this war experience, helped me to find the right approach to the kids, to the Syrian kids. Because I was those kids 20 years ago, and not only me, but all the crew members coming from Bosnia were those kids. Some of them were refugees, some of us were under the siege, and so on. So we could identify easily with the kids, and we became kind of role model to them because, you know, when we met them, they felt very depressed and they didn't see that there is future, you know, after such a horrible tragedy that happened to them. But after they saw us, they could start thinking about that all those trauma is something that you can get over in one moment. So I think it was really interesting combination and meeting between two generations of people coming from different parts of the world, but who have something very important in common. So in that sense, for us, it was kind of rethinking our own tragedy, rethinking our own childhood. And, you know, in one moment, because during our war, there were many organizations and some humanitarian workers and so on that we didn't like so much, you know, most of them, because we thought, they came to earn money out of our tragedy and misery. And we were thinking, are we those people now, you know, coming to the camps, refugee camps or the orphanages? But then we knew, you know, that we are not that kind. We didn't came there to get fame or money or anything. We just came because we thought that it's important to do something for those kids, because we felt that we can do something for them since we have this same, you know, background. And that's what basically gave me more strength to go on. And I think that's what those kids felt, you know. Immediately they trusted us, immediately they wanted to share with us their experiences and emotions and so on. And also I have to say that you know, during wartime and during this refugee life, people, adults forget that children are children and that they need to play and to have fun. Nobody cares if kids have toys, if they are in refugee camp or if they have fun. So we wanted not to dig through their traumas, because we are not professionals in that sense, but we wanted to make their life happier, you know, at least in that period when we were there. And we played with them. So we tried to make them feel as kids again. And they were really thankful for that. And I think that we made great energy together in that sense. And what, unfortunately, today's world is more or less burning, you know, everywhere you see wars and misery and suffering. And unfortunately, the kids are those people who are mostly in danger and who are suffering a lot. And unfortunately, humankind, we forget about that. You know, we always think that our own political interests or some ideological differences are more important than anything. But at the end of the day, you know, you have innocent children who are suffering, and we are responsible for that. And I think that we can do much more to improve their life, or to accept them as refugees, or to help them if they are in transit in our countries and so on. So I hope that this movie, Never Leave Me, can be kind of inspiration, or can be kind of motivation for some people to think or to rethink their approach towards children who are coming from countries that are not in the best situation at the moment. It was interesting. One of our first festivals was in China. It was one of the greatest Chinese film directors, Ji Zhangka. I don't pronounce it properly, but I hope they will forgive me. He established a film festival in Pingyao. It's a northern city of China. And we got an audience award. And for me, you know, it was really amazing experience, because I'm sure that most of people never heard about the city where we did this movie. I'm not sure how much they know about war in Syria, or because it's really huge country. So, but what was really amazing is that they find a link and they were attached emotionally to this story and to those kids. And some of them during the Q&A were crying, because one woman I remember told me, like, I could see my children in those kids and so on. So for me, really, it proved me again, and that cinema is something to, it's a bridge, and it should be, and it can be a bridge between people. So this award is one of the most precious awards for me, because I come from Bosnia. Most of people there never heard of that country. I talk about Syrian kids, and then we got an award in China. So it was really nice. Nice moment of my career. Also, it was shown in Dubai to the Arabic audience mainly, and of course their reaction was really intensive and emotional, because it's their language and they could feel it on another level than most of us. So it was very good. So now we expect premiere to happen in Sarajevo. I'm very curious how people will react there. Yeah, I mean, the life of this film just had started, so it's not that we showed it at so many festivals, but so far the reactions were really good. Yeah, being a woman director, it's not easy, as we can see more and more recently. I mean, we know it who are directors. I mean, women know that, but most of the people didn't know about it 10, 15 years ago. It wasn't a big subject to talk about. What I felt and my experience always was that I had to be at least twice better than my male colleagues to be recognized as equal, you know. And you know, this kind of, let's say, discrimination is subconscious thing that happened, and that's very dangerous. And I believe that these years and this period is something, a chance to raise awareness of this discrimination issue. Because, you know, those who are privileged, who have privileges, they are not aware of how other people feel, you know, they're not aware of the problem. And I think that we should now work a lot on that segment. In Bosnia, before the war, we didn't have many female directors, maybe 3. But then during the war, a few of us started our careers, and then I think we were rather successful with our short films, and then we were successful with our first features, and I think it encouraged many female directors or women who wanted to study cinema or to do cinema to start with it. So now we have many producers and scriptwriters and also editors, some of them who really are good and interesting, mainly young women. And the presence of female authors changed cinema, Bosnian cinema and also Balkan cinema, because, you know, first of all, we started to deal with some female characters maybe in different way. Then the whole, how to say, even aesthetic of those films and approach brought something new, some others. I mean, even though we are very different as an authors, but still I think it really changed the approach. And another interesting thing is that I think that in Balkan area there was this type of directors that were dominating our area for a long time, and it wasn't just in Bosnia, it was in all the Balkans and elsewhere. And it was, of course, it was men with a beard, very strong and tough, yelling or being very, how to say, like a tough guy on the set. And we also changed that. The atmosphere on our film sets are different than that. So I think it's also another quality and another diversity that we now can enjoy. So at the beginning, as we were like pioneers of post-war Bosnian cinema, it wasn't easy. So my experience was that sometimes when you come to some, I don't know, like place where you want to talk with people about your shooting, nobody talks to you. They talk to your cinematographer, at least, because he's a man. And then, you know, it was, even within the crew, it was very strange because they were not used to the fact that a woman is their boss and that they should now listen to one woman who is not very loud and not very, you know, like tough and in that physical sense. But that changed, you know. In time, people get used to it, and I think that now people don't really, you don't feel big discrimination in that sense. It becomes like normal. Well, I guess that Bosnian cinema was kind of a miracle, you know. After the war, we got all awards you can imagine, starting from American Academy Awards until Cannes Awards, Berlin, and so on. But unfortunately, during these 20 years after the war, our politicians, they didn't recognize the importance of cinema in general. So they start cutting funds, destroying things, not only in film, but also the whole cultural scene is basically in danger to disappear, because they are cutting funds, and we didn't find even the market-driven possibilities, you know, to survive. So in whole Bosnia, you have 30 cinemas. So de facto, there are less and less even physical places where you can really show your films. If we talk about cinema, of course, we lost audience because you know, in meantime, people were fed up with listening of stories how culture is in danger, and so you know, it's quite depressing. I'm not bringing so many good news from Bosnia in that sense. But what is good news is that authors are still surviving. My last movie was fully financed from Turkey. It wasn't financed from Bosnia at all. I brought Bosnian crew to do it, but we didn't got a penny, you know, from Bosnia. But we are not giving up, you know. We are trying, we are struggling. I'm not sure what will happen with new generation, because I'm not sure how strong they can be to fight on their own. But I hope that we will not let this beautiful area of human creation to vanish. As a student, I suffered a lot because I couldn't identify with this idea of macho director that was, how to say, like a mainstream idea in the environment where I was studying or where I was living. And I was thinking, you know, as a young, I was 17 when I started film academy. I was very young. So thinking about these ideas and these figures that were around me, who are my dear colleagues today, you know, but I'm talking about that perspective of a very young female at the academy, I thought that if I have to follow this path, I will not be a film director. I refuse it because I couldn't really imagine myself in that, how to say, position, and as that, how to say, that's not my sensibility. That wasn't my world. And then I discovered my own way of directing. I discovered, and it was not easy to discover the way how to become authority, but not the way how it was established like decades ago in my country. So I find a way. It wasn't easy, and I'm trying to, when I communicate with female students or those who want to become students, I try to encourage them in that sense. They don't have to become men in order to be successful directors, because that's another trap that you can jump in. Okay, I'm a female director, it's not easy, so I'm going to become a man to be able to fight against them or to be part of that world. For me, like, my dream and my position is to direct in a skirt. You know, I want to be a female. You know, when I appear on set, I don't want to pretend to be a tough guy, because I'm not. I'm a tough woman, but not a tough guy. So in that sense, I think that every director, no matter of the gender, should find hers or his own approach, and it's not one idea how you should or shouldn't act. And that's how I'm trying to encourage them to accept themselves and then to establish their own atmosphere and environment on their film sets or in theater, because we are theater and film academy. And I can see that for girls, it's mostly much more difficult, because I didn't have much support. Even in your families, you don't have support, because it's not so a common thing to be a director if you are a woman. And then and there is another level. In my case, there is another level of complication, because I'm wearing a headscarf, you know. So in a moment when I put headscarf in my late 20s, nobody supported me, you know. Like a filmmaker's environment, it was very strange, you know, because I was the first one to do it. So they didn't think I belonged there, because, you know, since I put this headscarf, I was supposed to quit filmmaking, you know. And also this, like, religious environment didn't support me, because they also thought I should quit filmmaking if I am now wearing a headscarf. So then my situation became even more complicated. But you can overcome all these obstacles if you are really good in what you do, and if you have enough strength to go through many prejudices and many, how to say, like, negative energy, and if you are really trying hard to and also I think that if you are feeling good in your own skin, then it will be much easier. So that's another thing that I try to tell to young female filmmakers. be aware of yourself, of your own sensibility, feel good in your own skin, and then try to spread that as your own images, your own style in filmmaking, and then you will be okay with everything, hopefully. I was doing one campaign long time ago, almost 20 years ago, that is thematizing violence against women. And at that time, we were trying to raise awareness of how women are in danger regarding that, and also how our laws are terrible, you know. So we find some cases when man is like torturing woman, putting some acid on her skin and so on, and he gets like 6 months in jail. And of course he never goes to jail, because all these 6 months he used, you know, and he spent in a court, and that's it. So we try to pay it to, how to say, to, you know, in Bosnia, it's so, this violence against women and this harassment and awareness of that is so deep that I don't know where we can start from. Because, for example, if you have domestic violence, the first question that everybody will ask, even women, is what she did to him. You know, and this like a sexual harassment, which is if somebody is touching my hand in the office, and, you know, having this approach towards me as a woman, it's harassment already. But nobody is even aware of that. You know, it's kind of like a normal thing to have all these stereotypes, even in films. If you can see the secretary who is in a mini skirt having sex with her boss, you know, it's like a, how to say, like a so normal and common picture in Balkan cinema. Or these sex scenes, which I always consider more as rape scenes than sex, you can also see in Balkan cinema. So if that's like environment, and if that's something that we are used to watch on TV, in commercials and in cinema, I'm not sure where we should start from in order to change that. So as I said before, I think that men should be emancipated. We should start emancipating men first, and then those things will change, and then we will come to the point when we can explain to women, okay, this is harassment, you should, how to say, like, report it or don't consider it as normal. So yeah, it's serious regarding that, and I hope that that we will do something, or use this wave of raising awareness, and of like pointing out the important issues and examples in order to change this in Bosnia. And I'm also for this percentage. I think that we should have, by law, we should force people to even finance certain number of female directors in order to change this picture of our presence, and so on and so on. So I think that, yeah, it's a long way in front of us, but I hope that we will do something on that matter. It means that, you know, there is this quota system that we are trying to have everywhere, so that there has to be a certain percentage of female movies that you have to support. Until now, it's just a recommendation, and there is no law that is saying, like, we have to support 50% of female directors in Film Fund, or at the festival you have to take a certain number of female directors. I think that even that step, which maybe can sound a little bit like, oh, it's not a justice. You know, sometimes I test my students and I tell them I'm really pro that, and they say, these young men, they say, yeah, but it's not fair. Why one man who has a good project he will not be supported because of some woman who has a less project that is less? And as I said, yeah, but we have to start from somewhere, because obviously now we are in that position, because you have many good female projects that are directed by women directors who are rejected, obviously, in favor of some male directors. Now we should maybe turn things around, and then in 10, 15 years, maybe it will not be important anymore, because we will be present enough, you know, on the scene, so that we will not consider anymore if it's female or male director. Yeah, yeah, it's a big discussion going on for some time now, and I think that we will figure out what's the best model for us. It wasn't very easy because, you know, I had to find, first of all, I had to get used to my new, how to say, form. And then I realized that I'm like a concept art myself, you know, because wherever I enter, everybody have opinion about me. Everybody can, you know, they think they like me or don't like me. They have prejudice. Even if it's positive, it's still prejudice, because if you don't know someone, you cannot like him or dislike him. I'm very stubborn person, and you know, I somehow thought that I have something to say, no matter what other people think about it. So I think that the content of my films also helped me to go through the obstacles, because I thought, you know, it's story worth telling, and I'm the one who is going to say it from the very interesting perspective and very unique perspective. And one of the elements of my unique perspective is also a headscarf, because how many insiders you have to tell you something about that phenomenon as well. So I thought that it can be a plus for me, and it can be, how to say, something that I can use in a good way as my own strength and inspiration, but also as a point of view and something that people might be interested to see and to share. So yeah, it's a struggle, and it still is, because all this, how to say, perception regarding the headscarf and Muslims in general is changing. You know, it's not comfortable almost on daily life. It became uncomfortable to be obviously Muslim. So in that sense, I think this struggle is not over, and it's going to be maybe harder, maybe easier, I don't know, but it's something that is, how to say, it's changing its shape. And you have to find your way through all these trends. Sometimes they are very negative, sometimes they are a little bit more positive, but yeah, it's very intense, how to say, like experience. Whatever you start developing, you have to be prepared to spend some years and a lot of courage you need in order to make it until the end. So 9 years ago, I was first time in New York. I was a guest at Columbia University, and at that screening of my film, I met people from New York, Bosnia-Herzegovina New York Film Festival, and I was really proud to see how great diaspora, as we say, they are. You know, I was very proud to see so many really educated and very interesting and very, how to say, like successful people living in New York. So that was the picture that I got. That was my first impression. Unfortunately, we couldn't show my first film for some technical reasons at that time, but I was always wondering when I will come as a guest, you know, to this festival finally, and it happened. So I must say that I'm really happy to be here, and what I have seen so far is that it's really a very well organized festival, and that it's very good to be here in many sense of that word. I haven't seen audience yet, but I think it's very important for us to have this place in New York where we can show our work, where we have some links with people to maybe connect us with some people and so on. So I think it's very, very important. We are a very small country, and you don't expect to have really like a festival in the center of Manhattan organized by Bosnians, but we have it, and I'm very happy for that. After the war, you know, unfortunately, I must say, but maybe fortunately, on the other hand, we have many people who left our country, and most of those people are very successful abroad. And so far, I'm not sure that we had enough links between us. But since one new generation basically grow already in US or in Sweden, or I think that now those young people, they are students or they are young professionals, they are more interested in the place where their parents came from. So I think that's our good opportunity, because they want to make some movies maybe in Bosnia, or they want to make maybe, because they are in better position than their parents were some 25 years ago. So I think that's a big hope for all of us, and I hope that it will become more and more frequent, this exchange of people and ideas and maybe co-productions and so on. So I guess in future it's going to happen even more. Well, my focus are women, obviously, and I really think that Bosnian women are, for me, like a big inspiration. And I think that they are very strong part of our population in our country, and I'm always amazed by their strength and ability to survive in this very strange society. Regarding position of women, you know, Bosnia is not the worst, but not the best place for us. So in that sense, you can find that there is still this patriarchal basis of the society and very emancipated women. You know, so my theory is that men are not emancipated in Bosnia. I think that women went through emancipation a long time ago, and it's really mislead if you want to go there and to work on emancipation of women, because we are emancipated, but who are not are men. So I think we should work on the fact to make their mind work in different way and to realize some things that these patriarchal, you know, ideas are should be behind us. So I hope to make more films about women in my country, and I hope to attract more women to become filmmakers and also to become our audience. So that's my mission, and I hope I'm gonna succeed. You know, I think that today's world is becoming more and more depressing, at least from my point of view. Wherever you look, you know, there is no place to go, mentally or physically, you know. Most of the places are becoming very, how to say, or there is actual war, or there is this corporative emptiness that you can find, you know, in other places that are not in the war directly. So I was wondering, you know, whether cinema has any sense, and I'm questioning myself about that every day, maybe. But then I remember that that's the only thing I know how to do. Maybe I could find something else, but this is what I like to do as well. And then I find cinema as a possibility to overcome this depressing reality. So if I find something that bothers me, then I try to look at it through, as a filmmaker, through the eyes of a filmmaker. And it helps me to survive this strange or difficult phenomenon that I noticed. So I think the cinema basically helps me to survive. Cinema, life inspires me, but also cinema helps me to survive life. So it's some kind of a very intensive and very essential relation that I have with my work. The good thing is that my husband is a director of photography, so I can share this very important aspect of my life with my family as well. My kids are still small, but we will involve them probably in production area very soon. No, I'm joking, but yeah, it's something that I mean, I think that cinema is something that I cannot divide from my everyday life, and if life inspires me, then cinema inspires me from the other side. So